I cut out the highs in every single one of my videos because I actually hate how I say them. I'm going to be talking about some books that I think every single reader should read at least once in their life. Even honestly, if you're not a reader, you should read these books because they are so very good. If you want to start getting into reading, these books are perfect for that as well. They're just all around amazing books, and so we're going to be talking about them for quite a while. Okay, we got 3 genres that I'm going to be talking about today. We got romance, fantasy / romantasy, and murder mystery. Every single one of these books that I'm saying in here has absolutely zero spice. Like, I don't read spice. Starting off strong with the romance genre because y'all know that is my genre. I love that genre so very much, okay? And if you're new to this channel, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce you to the Lynn Painter YA section. And any bookstore you go straight to her section.
We're in the Lynn Painter section because obviously.
Please, I'm begging, because they're all so good. They all have zero spice. They have tiny bit of cursing. Most of her books have cursing in it, so you're warned with that. But better than the movies, nothing like the movies, Betting on You, and The Do-Over. All 4 of those books you should read. If you're just starting to read, if you've already been reading for years and just haven't read these books for some odd reason, if you aren't a reader but you're kind of like, oh, I kind of want to like maybe try reading, that is the books for you, please. Oh my goodness, they're so good. Okay, moving on. That's the last time I'll talk about Lynn Painter. I figured I'd get her books first because if they weren't first, I'd just be talking about them throughout the entire video. The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams is such a great book. This is the only adult book that I have on this list, and it's just so good. I read it in the summertime. It's a football romance, so the guy is like a super famous football player, and then the girl is like his best friend, so it's friends to lovers. It's fake dating. It has all of the amazing tropes. Oh my goodness, y'all have to read this book, please. Rival Darling by Alexandra Moody. Oh, it's the first hockey romance that I've ever read, and if y'all have been readers for a long time and you don't read spice, you know how difficult it is to find a freaking hockey romance without spice. Why is it so difficult to do that? Like, I don't understand why people just can't write a hockey romance without spice. I don't know why they don't do it, but anyways, Rival Darling is one of the very few hockey romances without spice out there, and it's also one of the best, I think. It's so good. It's like rivals to lovers. Not really. She's a new girl in town. The guy plays for the hockey team that rivals her school. There's fake dating. If y'all can't tell, I love the fake dating trope. It's one of my favorite tropes ever. So yeah, that's a really good book and I highly recommend it. The Summer of Broken Rules. Okay, y'all. I know I'm recording this in like the winter time for most of us. I know some of y'all on the other side of the earth are in summer, so this is perfect for you. But The Summer of Broken Rules is such a great summer read that if it's not summer for you right now, wait until it's summer to read this book because it will be the best thing that you've ever experienced in your entire life. Because it's just like it captures all of the funness of summer, and it's just so fun to read during that time. So if it's not summer for you, wait with that book. It's like strangers to lovers. It's like strangers to friends to lovers. No, it's pretty much strangers to lovers because they go like straight into dating, and that's why I love it so much. And I know some people don't like insta love, but it's so good. What are y'all talking about? Actually, they're in this like beach town. They're playing the game of Assassin, like the game with like water guns and stuff. These are 2 books that I really don't hear many people talking about. The Upside of Falling by Alex Light is a very underrated book, I feel. It's very good. It's a very short-paced book. So again, if you're a new reader and you just want to find something to read for fun, or like if you're in a reading slump, great book for a reading slump. Very fast-paced, very fun. And again, the tropes are fake dating and friends to lovers. And I feel like that's been all of the freaking books I've recommended for romance. But the tropes is just so good. Like, y'all don't understand how obsessed I am with those tropes. Like, if I pick up a book and it's not friends to lovers, I immediately am like, oh, right? And it's a very good trope, and I love it. And then the next book is I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Leong. I don't know if that's how you say her name. I really don't. But this book had been recommended to me so many times, and I was like, okay, I have to read it. It was my first ever rivals to lovers trope that I've read, and somebody DM'd me, she was like, that's literally like all of her books are amazing rival to lovers. I was like, what? Because I loved that trope. I thought it was really fun. And so this is a very, very, very good book. It's also like on the shorter side, so that's really fun, and it's very fast paced. I really enjoyed it. Now for my fantasy girlies, I have some like I don't have any like high fantasy recommendations in this list because I personally don't read high fantasy. I have fantasy with like more of like the plots, and then fantasy where it's like more like focused on the romance. Okay, so we got both sides to the fantasy genre. Starting off strong, we got the Cruel Prince series. Cruel Prince was the first ever fantasy book / series that I read when I started reading, like the very first one. And honestly, I don't know if I would choose that one to be my first fantasy read again, just because it is a tad bit confusing in the beginning. Like with the world building and everything, it is very slow. I would recommend this probably not being the first fantasy book that you read. But that's okay. It's still a very good book. The first book, the only thing that I will say, it was very slow in the beginning. Like the first 80 pages are slow. Like before you go into the series, you have to have it in your brain. Like the first like 80 to 100 pages, you're going to want a DNF. Okay, I'm just going to say that if you are not used to fantasy and you pick up Cruel Prince, you're going to want a DNF. But don't do it, okay? Just get past the world building, because if you don't read the world building part, you're going to be so confused for the rest of the series. But it's a very, very, very good book. It's enemies to lovers, like the freaking queen of enemies to lovers. That book is the focal point of that freaking trope. Like when you think of enemies to lovers, you just think of the Cruel Prince. And then we got Defy the Night, which I think is a really good mix of like plot heavy and romance heavy, because it has a good aspect of both in there. They're both very strong plot and very strong romance, and so it's a very, very, very good series. This book, Defy the Night, I would say would be a good option for when you're first starting to read fantasy. And I say this because there's not really much world building, and if there is, it's mixed into the plot. So it's not like we have to get past the whole world building section to reach the plot and the romance in that part. Like, it's just very good all around. And so if you're starting to read fantasy, this is a good option for you, especially if you don't know if you like the romance plot better or if you like the plot better, okay? So that book can kind of like give you a feel of both, and then you can be like, oh, I want to go more with this side, or I want to go more with this side, because then there's like genres inside of the fantasy genre. There's like high fantasy, normal fantasy, which is like Cruel Prince, I would say, and then there's like romantasy, which is like my favorite genre in the fantasy genre, and we'll be talking about that in a second. The next one that you have to read from the fantasy genre is Divine Rivals. I have it right here next to me, and it's so good. I think the actual series is called like Enchantment of the Vows or something, which I did not know until like a couple of days ago. This series, I guess it's like the You've Got Mail trope. I don't actually know what that trope is. I've just heard people say that word. Anyways, she's been writing letters and then like sliding them under her closet door, and she does not know where these letters are going, but she's assuming, never assume, she's assuming that they're going to her brother who was in the war, and she does not know if he's alive or if he's dead because she hasn't gotten any letters back, right? And then all of a sudden she starts getting letters back, and she's like, oh wait, this isn't my brother. Who is this dude, and why have I been writing to him for like months, and he just now is telling me that he's not my brother? Right. So she kind of freaks out, and then the guy knows who she is, but she doesn't know who he is, and then it's like crazy, and then obviously it's like rivals to lovers, divine rivals. I just don't think I paid attention to the world building part of this book because I was so invested in the romance, because like I liked that she didn't know who he was. Like I was like, oh my gosh, when she's gonna find out? When is she gonna find out? When is she gonna find out? And so like that's what I was invested in. So I feel like I can't really say it's either or, but I would just go into it thinking it's a little bit more romance heavy. And then the next two series that I have actually go together. They're right behind me. And anybody who's been watching my channel knows that this is like my favorite ever. My favorite ever This series is Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and then also up here, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. It's just my favorite series in general. And before you guys are like, what about the Better Than the Movies? I like the movie series. That does not count as a series to me. Sorry. It is a series technically, but also it's a duology. Also, it's a romance book. So they're different. Okay? These books right here, my favorite freaking series ever that I've ever read, and I recommend these books to anyone and everyone that asks for recommendations. They're just so good. Stephanie Garber's writing is so whimsical, so magical that you feel like you're like transported into this whole different world that she's writing about. And like, bro, she'll be writing about the freaking sky or like the clouds, and she'll be like, look at the cotton candy clouds. And we're like, or like you can like smell the cotton candy in the air because of the clouds. It's so magical. I'm like, who would think to write like that? Like nobody else that I've read, like fantasy-wise, has described something that well. And so, like, I guess if you don't like the whimsical, magical part of fantasy because you're just, like, not having fun while reading, then maybe this isn't for you. So don't rain on our parade. The plot is actually kind of, like, dark and spooky. The world that she's writing about is so whimsical and magical. Like, people have powers. There's fates. This dude can kill people with a kiss. Like, this dude can make a whole freaking world in another world with his bare hands. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just so good. Most of it is focused on the relationship parts, but also the relationship adds to the actual plot. So, like, it's just good all around. It has every single part of, like, fantasy you're gonna want in it, except for the part of, like, dragons and stuff. The Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. I know there's a bunch of, like, drama surrounding that on Book Talk right now. I'm trying my very, very, very hardest to ignore it because it's actually making me so angry. Oh my gosh, that's a topic for a different video. Anyways, Powerless is a fantasy trilogy. In April, it will be a complete trilogy with all 3 books. It has 1 novella currently. I believe that there's going to be another one coming out soon. So you read Powerless, Powerful, Reckless, then Fearless, and then there's a novella going to be somewhere in there. I don't really know where it's going to go. It's just a very tropey book, okay? It's got a lot of the tropes in there. The second book, Reckless, a lot of people hate on it. Don't know why. It is, in fact, a filler book. So, yeah. But Powerless is a very, very, very good book. I thought it was amazing. One of the first few fantasy books that I read, I did not expect to like it, like, at all. But I read it all in one night. And that was odd for me back then. So, love that series. The third one is coming out April 8th. It's either April 4th or April 8th. I really don't know. But it's soon. So if you like cliffhangers, go for that series. Because it will actually make, like, the noggin turn. Just, like, twist and turn. Like, what the freak is going on? I got to think about everything that's going to happen. Because what is going to happen? And then everybody's like, do you have any, like, theories for Fearless? I went, no. Because she could do literally anything. Like, this book proves that authors can just write whatever the crap they want into books and be like, yeah, that happened. And then the readers will be like, what? What do you mean that happened? And then, like, go with it. The Selection by Kiera Cass is such a great book. It's like dystopia, romance. It's definitely a romantasy. Don't get me wrong. Definitely a romantasy, but it also has dystopia in it. It has kind of like, I would compare them to districts in the Hunger Games, but they're not. They're called something else. But, like, it's the same kind of system like that, where they have, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of that. And then it's kind of like, people call it, like, the Bachelor for books fantasy. I don't really get that. It's like, this prince is trying to find a wife, so they do this, like, contest, basically. And I guess it is kind of like The Bachelor, but, like, this dude has to pick somebody to marry in the end of it, right? And so he doesn't really want to, but then people start falling in love, like, actually. And everybody's like, what? So, yeah. Selection's very, very, very good. It has a lot of plot twists as well. And once you pick up the first book and you finish it, you're not going to want to stop reading until you've read all 3. So if you're going to start the Selection series, buy all 3 at once. I promise. That was it for the fantasy/romantasy books. The last genre is going to be murder mystery. I only have a few books for this because I don't really read murder mystery that much, which actually makes me so sad because I really do want to get back into murder mystery because that's the genre that I started off with when I first started reading. We got A Girl's Guide to Murder, which is an obvious one. So, like, for my more experienced readers, you've most likely already read that series, and if you haven't, get on it, girl. Like, Go read it. Oh my gosh. It's very, very, very good. But if you're a new reader, like I once was, pick up A Girl's Guide to Murder. It's so, so, so good. It literally will leave you on the edge of your seat. You're not going to want to put the books down. Like, I promise you, even if you, like, are like, I don't read at all. Like, there's no shot I'm ever going to become a reader. Read A Girl's Guide to Murder because you will not regret it. I promise you, you're going to fall in love with reading. Five Survive by the same author, Holly Jackson. Also amazing. It's around like 500 pages and it's so good. It goes hour by hour, okay? So there's like chapters inside the hour, but then it's like, it's 7, it's 8, it's 9. And it's so fun to read like that because there's 8 hours, I believe. There was 8 hours in the whole book, and I read the whole book in 7 hours. So it was cool to like line that up. If you think A Girl's Guide to Murder left you on the edge of your seat, read Five Survive. I promise you're gonna be like, what is going on? You tell me this just happened now? Like, actually? So it's crazy. Like, one thing Holly Jackson is good at, writing plot twists. The Reappearance of Rachel Price, it's so good. I would say it's probably my least favorite of all of her books, but it's still very good. And this one, I think, has the craziest plot twist. Like, at the end of the book, it's like plot twist, plot, blah, 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 what? And then the last book that I have for this genre, it's a series. It has 5 books in it, but I've only read 4 of them because the last book is like a spin-off, and I didn't feel like reading it because one of my favorite characters was like, apparently turns like evil or something. I was like, no. The book is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. It's a murder mystery set at a boarding school. She's trying to solve it because it happened like a few years ago. I don't know how many years. It was a lot of years ago. And then it starts happening again, and you're like, is happening. So you time jump a lot with this series, which you are gonna have to get used to if you read it, but since it's 4 books, you'll get used to it, I promise. And the first mystery lasts all 3 books. Like, 3 books is one mystery, and I love it. I have yet to read another book like that, and or another series like that, I guess, because you get so much information about the same mystery that you're like, I could solve this right now. Except you can't because it's the person you least expect. Like, I promise you, you won't know who did it. I promise you, you're not going to figure out who did it. That's all the books that I think that every single person should read once in their lifetime, because they're all so good. They've all been 5 stars for me. And if you enjoy any of the books that I've recommended, or if you've already read them and you have strong opinions on it, leave them in the comments because I will read them and will get back to you because I love talking about books. I love talking about books so very much, as you can see, like this whole channel. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got some good book recommendations from this because they're all very good. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and obviously here, subscribe. Have the best day ever. Go read some more books, and I love you so much.